traveling down life's highway, full of goodness and grace. I wake up every morning with a smile upon my face, 'cause I know everything I need to know. But I know there's still more to know. So I don't say no, let spirit flow and let it continue to grow. And know that I feel alright when I'm flowing with the river of life. I feel alright, 'cause I'm one with the love and light. I feel alright.
Good morning and welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Rogue Valley live Sunday broadcast. I'm Reverend Kimberly Hawkins, and it is my honor to greet you, to welcome you, whether you are watching live or our recorded video later on. We are blessed to have you join us, and we welcome you no matter where you happen to be on your own personal spiritual journey. We are a radically inclusive, loving community dedicated to teaching spiritual tools to transform personal lives and to help make a world that works for everyone. We are blessed this morning with our musicians Anton Miserak and Laura Berryhill.
In this very room, there's quite enough joy for one like me. And in this very room, there's quite enough love for one like me. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For spirit, one spirit is in this very room.
In this very room,
There's quite enough love for all of us.
and in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all of us. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For spirit, one spirit is in this very room. In this very room. In this very
In this very room, in the very room wherever each of us may be this morning, there is indeed quite enough love, because that one spirit, God, Atman, whatever we call it, the creative principle of the universe, our source, is everywhere present. It's always present within each of us. So even if you're alone this morning, watching from your home, we know that in that very room, Spirit is guiding us, lifting us, supplying us, supporting us, and breathing each one of us. So while the world is sheltered at home, what we know is we are one. Even though we may not be physically in connection like we once were and we will be again, Spirit, that love, that infinite love, that perfect peace and infinite possibility, wisdom, so many words we could use to describe that one. I know all of those qualities live within each and every one of us. We are blessed and we are a blessing. And so as we come together through the power of technology this morning. I know that that's happening in many locations across the world. We honor all paths to God. So whether people are worshiping in the Jewish faith, the Baha'i faith, whatever it is, it's all one God, many paths. So I'm blessing this service this morning, knowing that each of us receives something that we're needing to hear. Probably not anything we don't already know, but a reminder of truth, that we are one, that God is good, that all is well, even in the midst of very, very challenging times. So I bless everyone in this room. There are only 9 of us bringing this broadcast to you. I bless each one watching, knowing that we are one, that we are together figuring out a new world, a new way of being with each other that's better, more blessed, more compassionate than ever before. So I simply release this word now, knowing this prayer, as all prayers, has been heard and answered in the mind of God. So in great gratitude to know that, in great gratitude for this opportunity to come together, I release my word, knowing it's done. And we say together, and so it is. Amen. For our reading this morning, I kind of went out on a limb. I selected something a little different than what we usually read in Science of Mind. It's actually excerpts from a letter from the angels. I know a brilliant medium, I guess you would call her an angel communicator, named Ann Albers, who lives in Phoenix, Arizona. I've known her for years, and she channels angel energy. So whether or not you believe in angels, I think and hope that you'll find this message one that rings true and one that brings us hope. So here we go, from the angels to you through Anne. My dear friends, we love you so very much. So many of you are asking, when is this going to be over? A better question might be, who will I be when this is over? How will I have grown? What improvements have I made inside of myself that will cause a happier resonance in my life in the future? For dark and difficult though it might be for so many, this is a rare opportunity upon your planet Earth for so many of you to dive deeply within your own spirit, to feel what you may not have felt, to dream what you may not have dreamed, to wish for the world what you have not dared to wish for. There's no running from ourselves when emotions are running so strongly in the current of human consciousness. There is opportunity here to heal, to love yourself, to create. Dear ones, this will soon be over. Life will gradually return to normal, and yet nothing will ever be quite the same. You will be eternally more aware of your interconnectedness. You will be so much more grateful for the quiet ones who have always served you and formed the pillars of your society. You will be more tolerant of those you once judged as you witness them now, not in their roles, but in the very depths of their humanity. You will know forever what is of greater value in your lives. You will crave more touch, more depth, and more real connection. You will want to feel value and purpose in your lives. Who do you wish to be when this pandemic is over? Ponder that, dear ones, and then start to become that person now. For even if you are in solitude and silence, you can always be what you cannot do. You can always serve with your authentic light, even if the service is a vibrational one of emanating your very own joy and peace. You are emerging not only as individuals, but as a race triumphant. Contemplate this. You, a cell in the body of the human race, are more important now than ever. Resolve to be the light that you are, dear ones. Each of you is priceless, precious, and perfect in our eyes. God bless you. We love you so very much. The angels. And you can visit Ann Albers' website. She is at visionsofheaven.com. And now I think it's time to turn this back over to our beautiful musicians, Anton and Laura.
We're going to do a song by a friend of mine, Matthew Human, from a band I used to play with that's still around called the Human Revolution. A piece called Simple Ways. Some people like the TV, not me, I just watch the sky. Get a greater sense of freedom, seeing the hawks and the eagles fly. And the sound of the river, running free out to sea. Running through the canyons, yeah, that's what fills me. Time to plant our gardens, get ready for another year. Take advantage of this weather while the sky's still blue and clear. Corn and beans, squash and kale like to grow together. Save our seeds and keep them dry and we'll be eating right forever. Give me a simple life in the country where I can be free. Give me a fresh spring in a garden, that's all that I need. I need an earth home on this planet to live out my days. My heart, it really loves those simple ways. Nice stretch in the morning, rise and say hi to the sun. You know we got a lot of work to do and there's enough for everyone. Rain's gonna be coming soon, we've got a lot of wood to move. Gotta keep this family dry if it's the only thing we do. Give me a simple life in the country where I can be free. Give me a fresh spring in a garden, that's all that I need. I need an earth home on this planet to live out my days. My heart, it really loves those simple ways. Real food from the garden every day. Jarring up what we don't eat and putting it away. Life in our own village, listen to the children play. Swimming in the river at the end of the day.
Whoa.
Give me a simple life in the country where I can be free. Give me a fresh spring in a garden, that's all that I need. I need an earth home on this planet to live out my days. My heart, it really loves those simple ways. My heart, it really loves those simple ways. My heart, it really loves those simple ways.
I want to thank Anton and Laura. That actually was not the song they had planned to sing at this point in our service, but they sang it to warm up, and I just loved it. And for many of us, I think it speaks to what we're experiencing. I know that some of us are working harder than ever, but many, perhaps most of us, sheltered at home, are living that simple life. And I hope taking pleasure in the simple things, not just spacing out by binging, watching TV, but gardening and all those wonderful things that we have the opportunity. Thank you so much, you too. I thought I would begin our message this morning with a story, a parable of two villages. It's the story that happened quite a long time ago, where there was a traveler moving from one village to the next, traveling through a large section of country, simple life in the country. And the traveler came across a farmer tending his fields and went up to the farmer and asked him, "What are the people like in the village that I'm headed toward?" And instead of answering him, the farmer asked the traveler a question. He said, "Well, what were the people like in the village you just left?" And he thought for a minute, and he said, well, those people were kind and friendly and generous. They were great people. And the farmer said, you're going to find the people in the next village to be much the same. Not too long after that, a second traveler came through the same field, saw the same farmer, and asked the same question. What are the people like in the village that I'm headed toward? And again, the farmer asked him the same question. What were the people like in the village you just left? The second traveler said, oh, they were rude, unfriendly, dishonest people. And the farmer said, well, the people in the next village you're going to find are much the same. Now, of course, the difference wasn't the people in the village. The difference in this parable, the moral of the story is the difference is in the attitude of the person that was entering the village, in the prejudices, the beliefs they were holding, the way they viewed things. Attitude makes all the difference. So my talk title this morning is Checking Your Attitude Altitude. I borrowed that phrase, or kind of morphed it, from a chapter in Reverend Dennis Merritt Jones' book, The Art of Uncertainty. The chapter was entitled Setting the Altitude of Your Attitude. Last week I talked about unwritten, that the future is unwritten, that we're called to be quiet, to go within, to begin to set intentions, but that we don't know how long this period of social isolation will last. We don't know exactly what things will look like when we come out of it. And today I want to talk about how our attitude while we're sheltering in place, many of us, although I do want to acknowledge that some of us are working harder than ever, and we honor those on the front lines, essential workers in grocery stores, first responders, hospital workers. But our attitude shapes what we're experiencing now as well as what we will experience. The altitude of our attitude determines our experience. In Science of Mind, we teach as within, so without. We teach that our thoughts are creative. So this is nothing new. We also teach that we can experience heaven right here on earth, or we can experience the opposite. Our founder of Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, in the statement of what we believe, said this. He said, we believe heaven is within us, and we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. So we know that we have a choice, don't we? We have a choice to choose our attitude. We have a choice to choose what we focus on. We have a choice to decide what we're going to envision for the future. I wanted to read a poem by the 14th century Persian poet, Sufi poet, Hafiz, because he talks about this very thing. It's called To Build a Swing. You carry all the ingredients to turn your life into a nightmare. Don't mix them. You have all the genius to build a swing in your backyard for God. That sounds like a hell of a lot more fun. Let's start laughing, drawing blueprints, gathering our talented friends. I will help you with my divine lyre and drum. Hafiz will sing 1,000 words you can take into your hands like golden saws, silver hammers, polished teakwood, strong silk rope. You carry all the ingredients to turn your existence into joy. Mix them. Mix them. Build a swing. Yeah. Create heaven. Now, the question is, how do we do that? Because many of us are experiencing quite challenging times. Everything we once knew is different. Many of us are sheltered in place. Many of us have lost our livelihoods. Many of us are worried about finances, not to mention many of us are becoming ill with this virus or losing people who are ill. So this is real. This is very, very real. So what I envisioned with this talk about checking your attitude altitude is I envisioned the instruments in a cockpit as a pilot steps into that cockpit. There are many important instruments. Of course, there's an altimeter measuring our altitude. And I think that the metaphor here is when we're at a high altitude with our attitude, with our perspective, we can see a broader landscape. We're not just mucked in the mire of the clouds. I know all of us have had the experience, where most of us have, of flying in an airplane when it's drizzly and dreary and cloudy, and suddenly the airplane breaks through the clouds and the sun is shining, and it's beautiful. And you realize that the sun is shining all the time. And my friends, the light of God is shining all the time, whether we can see it in the circumstances that we're encountering at the moment or not. So to set the altitude of our attitude means to set that perspective where we understand God is always present. God is in this very room. God is within each of us. The goodness, the opportunities, the blessings are always available to us. Now, another little instrument on that panel is, and I didn't realize this when I first came up with the talk title, it occurred to me actually in the middle of the night. Another instrument is called the attitude indicator. On an airplane, it means something different than it does for us humans. An attitude indicator indicates the orientation of the plane vis-a-vis the horizon, because sometimes if you're flying on instruments, you can't see the horizon. And I look at that again as our attitude vis-a-vis the divine. You know, do we have that horizon, that ground of all being, that source of us at all times in our mind's eye? Can we see that it's always there, that help is always there, that we are always guided? And finally, the other instrument I wanted to mention is the heading indicator. Very important. If we are flying a plane, we need to know where we're headed. And I think in life the same is true. Even in this time of sheltering in place, we best have an intention for where we're headed. Like the reading that I read from the angels, if we can think about, who is it I want to be when this sheltering in place is over? What is the world I want to help create look like when this sheltering in place is over? So let's begin to have those intentions in mind, and let's begin to make the small changes within ourselves that allow us to be the person we want to be when this is over. Now, we also, most of us understand that when a pilot steps into a plane, before she takes off, she goes through a very specific pre-flight checklist, right? And I think that this is very important in life as well. Right now, for those of us who shelter in place, it would be easy to sleep late and get up and, I don't know, overeat and binge on TV shows and feel sorry for ourselves and feel cooped up and maybe get kind of testy with the people we live with, which is all understandable, and I don't mean to judge that. But we are given each day 86,400 seconds of precious life to live. And so just like that pilot that does the pre-checklist before they take off, I'm suggesting that when we wake up in the morning, perhaps there's a pre-checklist, a pre-life checklist that we might go through to set the attitude, the altitude of our attitude, to set our minds stayed on spirit and the existence of spirit, and to set our intentions for where we want to go. The beautiful poet Khalil Gibran said this. He said, "Your living is determined not so much by what life brings to you as by the attitude you bring to life. Not so much by what happens to you as by the way your mind looks at what happens." And Harry Truman said, "A pessimist is one who makes difficulties his opportunities. An optimist is one who makes opportunities of his difficulties." So here we are in the middle of this unprecedented time. We do have the ability to create our reality. How do we do this? How do we set our altitude of our attitude? How do we make sure we have the proper perspective? You know, the first thing I want to make clear is that we cannot choose our feelings. Feelings are things that come pretty much unbidden. And so I'm not talking here about ignoring our feelings, trying to shove them under the carpet, doing what we call a spiritual whitewash, pretending, oh, all is well, God is here. This is a difficult time. And we wouldn't be human if we didn't experience all kinds of emotions. Grief at what's going on across the planet, especially if we're empaths. There's deep sadness that we can't help but feeling and absorbing. There's fear. There's fear of the unknown. There's fear of our economic system collapsing. There's fear of having our needs met, fear about not being able to protect our families. These are real feelings. Perhaps there's frustration. I know I felt that lately. I'd love to just go out and do something with my friends or hug somebody I love. There's frustration. So I'm not saying that we discount our feelings. Rather, I'm saying, perhaps when we wake up, in our pre-life checklist, in our pre-day checklist, we check in with ourselves. How am I feeling? Instead of just getting up and being mindless about it, how am I feeling? I know for me, when I meditate in the morning, frequently I have tears lately. I have tears because of the sadness of what's going on around me. And that's okay, and tears are healing. If we can give ourselves some time to feel what we're feeling, move through the feelings, discharge them. My mom used to say, if you feel like crying, allow yourself a good cry because you feel better, and it's true. So number one, feel the feelings. Ways we can do that, of course, are journaling, taking a walk, meditating, lots of ways that we can check in. When I wrote this week's newsletter for our community, our beautiful and talented administrator, Vivian, always proofreads the newsletter for me. And I asked her, how was it? She goes, not too bad. You made a couple typos. And one of the typos I made was when I meant to write social distancing, I wrote social distrancing. And first I had a chuckle about that. And then I thought, that's kind of meaningful because we all are called to be social distancing right now. But how many of us are also, while we're distancing, distrancing? How many of us are kind of going numb and not being mindful, spending maybe too much of the time, more time than we'd like, binging on TV shows? Some of us are doing crossword puzzles or jigsaw puzzles. Nothing wrong with that. It may be a way to cope. Some of us are eating too much or drinking too much. And so I think that we're called to be mindful, not to beat ourselves up if we're doing some of those behaviors that are soothing and comforting, but we're called to be mindful again of what can we do that's productive. I know a lot of people have cleaned out garages and drawers. A lot of people have been of service, reaching out to friends, especially that are living alone. These are things we can accomplish. And so I guess part of that morning pre-day checklist for me, I would suggest would involve at least one thing we could accomplish that day. It doesn't have to be huge, but at least one thing that we could accomplish that would make us feel good, that would make us feel connected. So the second thing in this pre-day checklist is to check our connection with the divine. I talked about being at an altitude where we could see clearly a bigger picture. And I think the way we do that, in a large part, is not only by meditation, but by prayer. Prayer. St. Francis said, the result of prayer is life. Prayer irrigates the earth and the heart. Prayer irrigates the earth and the heart. The Sufi poet Hafiz said, complaint is only possible while living in the suburbs of God. Right now, I think it's easy and understandable for many of us to be living our days in the suburbs of God. We're frustrated, we're alone, a lot of things are out of our control. But if we take time to pray and to meditate, to feel that presence, to come together in virtual community as we're doing right now, to remember the truth that we are not alone. In Science of Mind, the first two steps of our spiritual mind treatment, our affirmative prayer, is recognition, where we speak and recognize the presence of the divine everywhere and the qualities of God or spirit or whatever you want to call it. And the second step is unification, remembering that we're part of God, part of spirit, part of that divine creative intelligence of the universe. We cannot be separate. It's impossible. If spirit is all there is, there's nothing else to be made from. And there's no spot we can be outside of what is divine. So I think, again, the checklist should involve checking in with our feelings, checking in that we remember the truth, that we get that bird's eye view, that God's eye view of the world, that not only does God, spirit, goodness exist here right now on earth, it exists in the whole universe. There's an order in the whole entire universe. I'm going back to that reading that I read. Who do we want to be when this is over? For me, one of the things that I've been doing in my inner work, this period of being sheltered in place, I think now this is the 7th Sunday we've gone live virtually and not in person. One of the ways I've worked on my inner self, and I still have work to do, is forgiveness work and to drop judgment. How easy it is for all of us, no matter what our political affiliation or views are, to watch the evening news and to sit there and to judge people who disagree with us and to utter words like idiot or whatever, probably worse words than that. And you know, it's fine for us to have opinions. It's fine for us to speak our opinions. It's fine for us to vote our conscience. It's fine for us to demonstrate for what we want in the world. But it's not fine, it's not productive, it's not in resonance and authenticity with who we are as beings of divine origin. To judge, to condemn, to say nasty things, to think nasty things about our fellow citizens. And for me right now, I think that's part of what we're called to do. Someone recently said it's as if Mother Earth has sent us all to our rooms to think, to contemplate, just like you do with a child. Go to your room and think about this, and maybe you'll find it in your heart to apologize for what you've done. And I think that we're both there right now. We're all there, rather. We're all there called to look at what we've created, both for the planet and for all of the beings on the planet, and how we might decide to do things differently. Again, I turn to a beautiful writing from a mystic, Thomas Aquinas. He wrote this. He called it, "Could you embrace that?" I said to God, "Let me love you." And he replied, "Which part?" All of you, I said. "Dear," God spoke, "you are as a mouse wanting to impregnate a tiger who is not even in heat. It is a feat way beyond your courage and strength. You would run from me if I removed my mask." I said to God again, "Beloved, I need to love you, every aspect, every pore." And this time, God said, "There's a hideous blemish on my body, though it is such an infinitesimal part of my being. Could you kiss that if it were revealed?" "I will try, Lord, I will try." And then God said, "That blemish is all the hatred and cruelty in this world." Could we embrace that? Could we forgive that? Could we stop judging that? Could we remember, as the Course in Miracles reminds us, that everything we do is either love or a cry for love? So instead of judging somebody and calling them names and adding to the acrimony and the bitterness and the conflict, could we find compassion in our hearts for even the hatred and the things that we deeply disagree with? I've shared a couple practices that I've used and encouraged students of mine to use. Simple practices like taking the person you most want to judge right now, whoever that might be, and using their name, filling in, "I accept you," person's name, "I bless you," person's name. And say that multiple times. I accept you, I bless you. Another beautiful spiritual practice comes from the Buddhist tradition. I'm forgetting the name right now, but you'll know it when I say it. It's a blessing. You know, may you be filled with kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease, and may you be happy. To say that to people that you find it hard to love, to say that for all sentient beings. May you be happy, may you be well, may you be peaceful and at ease. It's a beautiful practice. I came across a quote from Abraham Lincoln this week, and I find it inspiring. He once said, "I don't like that man. I need to get to know him better." Wow. You know, and in my own experience, even though we can disagree vehemently with people on important issues, I think if we truly get to know somebody, if we can truly get to know where they came from, what their hurts are, what motivates them to do the things that we find we judge, if we really understood their journey in life, I think we would understand and be compassionate and perhaps even love them. So the next time we find ourselves not liking someone, perhaps we can say to ourselves, I need to get to know them better. I need to understand them better. So moving into the last point I wanted to make today, many of you have heard that the Chinese ideogram for danger also means opportunity. Isn't that interesting? Danger, opportunity, and certainly there's danger in the world right now we're all facing, we're all aware of. There's also a Zen saying that the obstacle is the path. That idea that everything we experience is a stepping stone to our greater good, as the Way of Mastery tells us. And again, the mystics have known this throughout the ages. Wonderful Sufi poet Rumi wrote something called Pay Homage. And I'd like to read that to you now. This is back in the 13th century. Rumi, pay homage. If God said, Rumi, pay homage to everything that has helped you enter my arms, there would not be one experience of my life, not one thought, not one feeling, not any act I would not bow to. So I think we're called to pay homage, even though we may not have consciously chosen this difficult time with a world pandemic and all the pain involved on so many levels. We can know that the obstacle is the path. We can know that in this danger there's also opportunity. We can pay homage to what is here now. We can accept it. We can choose what is occurring, as one person said recently. We can choose it, not resist it, and use it to develop our goodness, our vision, and the person we want to be. So happiness, again, is not based on outer experiences and events. It's based on what's going on within our hearts. Given another precious day of life, another 86,400 minutes, that gift, how do you choose to use it today? Are you willing to go through your pre-day checklist to make sure you've set your attitude at an altitude, that you've allowed yourself to feel your feelings and move through them, that you've checked in with your connection with the divine, so that our attitude toward the horizon, toward the ground of our being, is one where we can see and know and feel that we are embraced, we are supported, we are guided if we can listen, and we are connected, we are one. And finally, to trust that even this incredibly difficult and often tragic challenge can lead us to a place where we understand we are one, that we can make a world that works for everyone, that we can have compassion both for ourselves and for others. Mark Nepo tells a really sweet story about salmon. We know salmon swim upstream. And he says the way they do that, and I never knew this, is they expose their underbelly from their head to their tail to the current, which slaps them in the belly and as a result flips them up into a higher place in the waterfall or the stream where they're flowing. And time again, they allow themselves to be vulnerable, to accept this current, to expose themselves to the current so that they get slapped and moved upward. And I think if we could do that, if we could accept what's going on right now, open ourselves to it, be vulnerable to it, we allow ourselves to elevate, to move up, to be, well, to use this experience to grow, to deepen, to know truth. Yeah. I'm going to end with a couple quotes, and then we're going to do a spiritual practice. Wayne Dyer said, "Attitude is everything, so pick a good one." And Oprah Winfrey, "The greatest discovery of all time is that a person can change his future by merely changing his or her attitude." And so it is. For our spiritual practice this morning, I want to lead you in a Buddhist practice called Tonglen. I'm trying to remember what language right now, but the word Tonglen means taking and receiving. Actually, taking and giving. Taking and giving. So Tonglen is a practice where we prepare our hearts, where we open our hearts, where we realize the spaciousness in our heart, which is where the divine lives, yes? If I say, who did this, and you say it was me, or point to yourself, where do you point? Point to yourself. We usually point right here, right? Yeah, we automatically do. Our heart, the cave of the heart, is that place where our essence, our eternal part lives. So Tonglen involves opening the heart, and then it involves doing something that can seem counterintuitive, that can seem almost not productive, where we breathe in our pain, we breathe in our feelings. So right now, for example, many of us are feeling worried, scared, maybe even terrified. And instead of glossing that over or trying to forget the feelings, we breathe the feeling in. We allow it to be transformed in that cave of our heart, and we breathe out that which we need. So in this case, it might be breathe out peace, breathe out power, breathe out love. We can also, as we breathe in, imagine we're breathing in everyone's pain, because we're not the only ones feeling scared right now. So we're breathing in the pain of the world, allowing it to be transmuted, and then breathing back out love. Another way we can do this is if we see someone who's hurting, a loved one perhaps someone who's sick in the hospital and can't be with us. We breathe in their pain and breathe out love, connection, and so on. Beautiful, beautiful practice. So as Anton gives us some lovely instrumental music, I'm going to lead you, if you're willing, into this Tonglen practice. So we begin by taking a comfortable position, as the Buddhists would say, with a straight back, with a lifted chin, with our eyes perhaps lifted upward to the divine. And let's just take a couple deep cleansing breaths together, breathing in deeply, holding it for a second at the top, and then just breathing out slowly and completely. And another deep breath in and releasing it. And now I'm going to invite us to imagine that we're breathing in through our whole body. We're breathing into the pores in our skin, through our whole body. And as we breathe in, we're breathing in to the heart, to that cave of the heart. And as we breathe in, we feel the expansion of our heart. We connect with the spaciousness of that heart. For we know even science has showed us that the vibration of our hearts extend way beyond our physical bodies. So let's just spend a minute, all of us, imagining we're breathing in through every pore in our body into that heart space, expanding it with every breath, and breathing back out to the world. Breathing in and breathing out. As we do this, notice that we tend to let go of how we defend our hearts, how we tend to protect our hearts, to stay separate from anything that can hurt us. We breathe in, opening our hearts to our own feelings and pain, and to the pain of those around the globe right now. We open to it. And now I'm going to invite us to spend a few breaths. Think of whatever feeling, painful feeling, is most present for you these days. Perhaps it's fear. Perhaps it's anger. Perhaps it's just frustration. And I'm going to invite you to breathe in that feeling. Breathe it into the heart space. Knowing that as we breathe it into that cave of the heart, it is being transmuted, is being transformed. And as we breathe out, I invite you to imagine that you're breathing out what it is you most need in place of that feeling. Breathing out peace, or perhaps breathing out love. If the feeling is loneliness, perhaps you're breathing out unity, connection, oneness, goodness. Let's just take a couple more breaths, breathing in the painful feeling, allowing it to be transformed in the heart, and breathing out what it is we want, what we need. And now taking that one step further, knowing that we're not the only one experiencing fear, for example. Imagine now that we're breathing in the pain, the fear of our collective humanity. We might even see that energy and feel the texture of that energy as something dark. Perhaps we can just imagine that it's black smoke. And so we breathe it in, into that heart space. Allow it to be transformed. And we breathe out love to everyone across the world experiencing fear or pain or aloneness. Knowing that truly we can be healed. And we can be a healing presence for everyone on the planet. Next, I invite you to imagine or to think of someone, perhaps someone you know, perhaps someone who's ill with this virus, or someone who's worried about their livelihood. And again, envision their pain, the texture of it, the darkness of it. Imagine it as black smoke or green smoke, whatever image comes to your mind, and allow yourself to breathe in the pain of that other person into the heart, that spacious, transformative, healing space where we are one with the divine presence. And imagine that you're breathing out to that person exactly what they need. Wholeness, love, peace, opportunity. And now as we breathe in, imagine we're breathing in the pain of everyone around the globe affected by this virus, whether it's directly being ill, whether it's those on the front lines experiencing the pain of seeing people suffer without their loved ones near, or whether it's families missing their loved ones, worried about their loved ones, breathing in that black smoke, that pain, that grief, breathing it in fully into the cave of our heart where God's Spirit, love lives, allowing it to be transformed, and breathing out love and peace, calm, connection to the whole world. As we do this, the taking and the sending, we let down our defenses. We are no longer living in an isolated, selfish worldview where we're worried only about ourselves. We develop compassion and we feel our connection with our brothers and sisters and sentient beings around the globe. We feel the connection for the earth herself. So perhaps in our next breath, we can breathe in the black smoke, representing all of the damage we've done to the environment, breathing in the pain of Mother Earth, taking it into that cave, that transformative place where the divine lives in the center of our hearts, and breathing back life, clarity, love, wholeness. This is a beautiful practice. I am so grateful to our Buddhist friends, brothers and sisters in spirit. And I encourage us all to use this if we see fit, to build our compassion, to build our connection with that divine presence always living right within, to build that higher perspective above the clouds of what's going on right now, realizing as we choose our attitude, as we choose our vision, as we choose the people we want to become and be when this pandemic ends, as we choose the vision of the world we want to see, the vision of a clean earth we want to see, the vision of way we treat each other and the way we treat ourselves. As we forgive and we're gentle and compassionate with ourselves, we are able to do the same for all sentient beings. There is power in this, my friends. And so as we move now into a closing prayer, I am already in that space where I have recognized a perfect life, a source of all good, a presence and a power that's absolutely everywhere, animating all of life, breathing me, wanting to express uniquely in a precious way as me and as you and as each of us on the planet, as the four-legged, as the winged ones, as those that crawl, as all of Mother Nature, breathing together, being together, creating together, recognizing that presence lives me, animates me, breathes me, that I cannot be separate from the love, the peace, the wholeness, the harmony that it is. And that just as that is the truth for me, it is the truth for each within the sound of my voice, for each around the planet. No matter our faith tradition or not, we are one. We are one. And so trusting that this danger is indeed an opportunity, that we can embrace what is happening, using this time, using each day to set the altitude of our attitude, to stay connected in our mind's eye, in our heart, in an embodied way with the truth of the beauty of the godlings that we are, with the truth of our oneness with each other, with the truth of our power from that open heart, compassionate space to create, to heal, to allow a world to emerge that works for everyone. We are on the brink of something new and powerful and beautiful. And as we allow ourselves both to feel the painful emotions, but to set our course, to set our heading of where we want to go, this whole experience can be transformative, even for those who decide to leave the planet at this moment. For those of us left behind, we are one, we are one, we are one. And so I bless each one of us. I bless all of those suffering in one form or way through this difficult time. I bless our first responders, our hospital workers, our essential workers. I bless each one, whether we're sheltered at home or whether we're working harder than ever to be of service, to heal, to provide. I bless mothers and fathers and children and aunts and uncles and friends. And I bless all of those who agree with us politically and all of us who have a very different view, knowing that in that cave of the heart, each of us is love. And each word, each action of every being is either an expression of love or a cry for love, a cry for healing. Knowing that each of us has that ability to take, to transform, and to give back, to heal. In great gratitude to speak these words, and great gratitude for this opportunity to come together as a global community of healing and wholeness and love and connection. I release this prayer now knowing that it is heard, as all prayers are, that that heart of God hears and responds, and this prayer is answered. And so there's nothing more to do but just to release it, to let God be God in all of its fullness. We say together, and so it is. Amen. Whew. So taking a moment just to come back in consciousness to this space, this time, wherever that may be. I'm saying a special thank you to the 9 of us in the room, to Anton and Laura, providing our beautiful music, to Vivian and Connie, Bill, Jason, Randy, Tom, and Shannon, who have come here to serve. A thank you to each one listening. And just a reminder that if you are able to give, there are many ways to support this work we are doing. The classes we teach online, the morning conference calls that we come together in community to share. You can send a check to P.O. Box 1458, Medford, Oregon, 97501, Center for Spiritual Living, Rogue Valley, or just CSL RV will do. Our website is cslroguevalley.org, and you can make a donation there by hitting the donate button. Or simply call 800-675-7430 with your credit or debit card and designate us as your charity. The practice of giving, just as we did in that meditation, as we gave love and peace and power, the practice of giving financially is also a spiritual practice. So just knowing that we bless those gifts right now, that we bless them, that it is God in action when we decide to give to places where we're spiritually fed. And we're so grateful for those of you who are able and willing to support us. Couple quick announcements. This afternoon we have a different form of youth church. Our middle school and elementary school coordinators for Center for Spiritual Living are doing a story time on our Facebook page. So tune in. That's a Zoom call, and there'll be recordings of it available later for you to see. You can also sign up on Facebook for our email if you'd like to receive our weekly e-newsletter. And so once again, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to, before our closing blessing, turn things over once again to Anton Miserak and Laura Berryhill for our closing song.
Light your lamp and pass it on. Let it shine for everyone, so we all may know, and we all may see that we are one great family. Light your lamp and pass it on. Let it shine for everyone, so we all may know, and we all may see that we are one great family.
So blessings, great family around the globe. I'm going to share with you a final quote. It's from Wilford Peterson. Be gentle with yourself. Learn to love yourself, to forgive yourself, for only as we have the right attitude toward ourselves can we have the right attitude toward others. Remember, my dear friends, my global family, to check the altitude of your attitude, for attitude determines your altitude in life and our altitude as a human family. So long for now. I love you. I bless you. Goodbye.